Hey there, and welcome to the final presentation of the day for the Data-Centric AI Forum. This is the closing thoughts of all the programming that we've been sharing with you throughout the day. Let me just verify. Apparently, you can't see who's online or if anybody's watching through StreamYard. So I'm just checking in to see if there's anybody with me today. Um, but I will just fly through some ideas, and if you have any questions, comments, I'm happy to do some live Q&A. This will be really brief. I've been just in a series of different talks throughout the day. So yeah, I think from the beginning of the day we painted this perspective of there is data and there are organizations, and data is a representation of reality. It is a ground that we stand on. But data in of itself is a useless idea if it's not put within the right context. Um, there's a pyramid called the DIKW pyramid, which is a layered pyramid showcasing data, information, knowledge, and wisdom. And it exemplifies the idea that concepts layer upon concepts to build upon each other and create context and create a richness of ideas that we can take decisions from these underlying data and information points. Um, so I think we've painted a very clear idea that being able to use language, being able to use data, information, and knowledge in the context of data infrastructure is a key to unlocking the next level of computing power of social technical systems. We have to keep in mind that if we develop something, a technical implementation of something, the basis of its use, the value of its use, is is partly in its accessibility, in its usability, and the way that we can articulate that we derive value from it. And I know that's sort of a value is a sort of a squishy concept to articulate and to build a business case around, but we can translate value to saving time, money, effort, resources, saving labor, increasing our ability to handle increasing complexities. So being able to do more work in a shorter period of time, and also being able to increase the quality of our output with less effort. So I think if we can tie this idea of having data be a core asset of an organization that empowers us to have richer information, richer knowledge that we can communicate with in natural language, that allows us to have richer, deeper conversations with each other in predefined social contracts. Uh, I think that gives us a good map, a good compass as to how we can judge the things that we develop now and in the future. Ontologies is a means to create this. Ontologies allows us to create an explicit mapping of knowledge, of concepts, how they're related to each other, how they relate to us. And with the latest adoption of LLMs like ChatGPT and any other sort of flavor of that, we've unlocked a new natural language interface that allows us to further engage with machines. Um, I'm certainly excited at the applications of these technologies. I would personally, I would like for them to be a little bit leaner and more efficient computationally, so we're not burning a ton of energy and computational power on silly questions and queries that could otherwise be looked up in books, or maybe we can have more performant algorithms that search for knowledge in specific ways. But until we cross that chasm of developing those systems ourselves, I, I guess that's just an intermediary transition that we have to pay, right? But at some point, I do hope that we're able to have the same level of engineering prowess, the same kind of thinking, the same kind of efficient, beautiful functional design that was employed in getting us to the moon. I think I think we have to find ways of cutting out the fat of these gluttonous computer programs. But I'm rambling. If you didn't get a chance to check out some of the conversations, um, with the first presentation, I made the argument that knowledge architecture needs to evolve as a discipline. Some people call it semantic engineering, other people call it ontology, but whatever kind of word verbiage you use, it means the same thing. Modeling knowledge so that it's a human and machine interoperable. Um, and After that was Dr. Chetana Sridhar, and she talked about building intelligent systems, a roadmap to AI application success, and she discussed the varying flavors of computational power that we have available and how we integrate it with sensors and robotic appendages. So her presentation really was an argument, or it was a construction of a view of the world that artificial intelligence is a representation of human intelligence, and it's meant to emulate a reactive agent so that it's capable of performing tasks as a naturally intelligent agent would do. Um, After that, Dr. Kusum Lata gave a presentation on generative AI for low resource languages. I found that presentation to be particularly interesting to me. I speak Spanish. If we had no colonization of El Salvador, or if let's say, for example, North America, Central America, South America were never colonized and they developed as their own society, we would see vastly different developments of language and culture over time to this modern time. What she did was she worked with a subject matter expert of the Odia language, which is a derivative of the Hindi language, and she created a language instruction set that allowed for some level of cultural sensitive responses around Odia. Now, I'd love to see that for languages in Italy, the subdialects in the mountains of Mexico, of Chile, of Peru, of you know the indigenous tribes in here in the U.S., indigenous tribes in Eastern Europe. I mean, there's so many different tribal sectors that could really use this technology to preserve their cultural heritage. I thought that was really really cool. Then we had data centric methods for responsible AI with Dr. Shaista Hussein. It's always a joy talking to her. She's super cool and very well put together in terms of her presentation and her thinking process. She's thorough in how she evaluates and audits systems, and she made a compelling case for why we need to keep a close eye and monitor AI systems, how they evolve, to ensure that we don't introduce any data drift or unwarranted biases into these systems that have a disproportionate effect on society. So she's doing really great work. After that, it was leveraging synergies, LLMs, ontologies, and knowledge graphs, and it was by Dr. Giuseppe Futia. He painted a very cool picture. Sorry for my lack of creativity at this point. I'm kind of brain fried, but he painted this very interesting perspective of a virtuous cycle of using ontologies and knowledge graphs to sort of solidify a way to disambiguate entities, and using LLMs to retrieve knowledge, rectify that knowledge with the ontologies and knowledge graphs to contextualize the understanding of what you're talking about, and having that feedback loop. You make a query, you have an engagement with a system, you curate a data set that is localized knowledge, and that trains and makes sensitive the response of LLMs in the future. But you continue to refine that model as you keep engaging with it. I think that's a really interesting concept, and yeah, it's really incredibly useful for life sciences, pharmacology, chemical, and law domains. I certainly can't trust an AI algorithm to tell me whether I'm going to live or die or put me in jail or not. So if we can get even closer to equipping people that can use their expertise for good, and sort of offload them and increase their capacity to support people with their specialized talents, I think that'd be a worthy exercise to pursue. Um, then we had information architecture from data products to knowledge graph. That was a presentation by Andrea Gioia. Andrea is really well versed in communications. I mean, he painted a very clear perspective from the nuts and bolts of what is data to how do you package that into data products, the different kinds of flavors of data products, how we create value from data, and then how data is used in applications, how that is used in modular and monolithic applications, how that is enriched with the use of ontologies and knowledge graphs. And we need to develop this evolutionary architecture system that allows us to create and expand a knowledge base, a knowledge asset in a reusable way. Um, yeah, his presentation was really cool, and I highly recommend you go check it out if you have a moment. After that, we we unfortunately had to reschedule this one. It was how ontologies form the knowledge scaffolding of enterprises. That one's going to be presented by Emika Okoye. So for next Friday, April 5th, I recommend that you attend that one. Emika's a really good speaker, and he's always got some deep thought, philosophy, and ethics baked into the technical aspects of these sorts of things. But it's also very pragmatic. So he's a cool person to reach out to and learn from. We had a little lunch break, and then we had another presentation, Map and Molecule, Building the Enterprise Holograph, by Daniel Taylor. He did a very visual presentation using Prezi. I enjoy the visual element to be able to follow through his thinking process and how concepts are interrelated. But what I took away from that was that the knowledge that we create and use to reason with the world is reusable. Um, we need to create this concentric circles of contextualization. We need to start with what is useful, what is known to be true, and slowly expand as our organizational needs expand. What I found useful as well is that he advocated deeply for reusability. Anything that you create, it needs to be able to integrate with other components of your organization and also be interoperable with outside systems. Say, for example, you have an emergency and your application goes kaput. If you have a clear mapping of how you reason with your data and you have data stores, you can easily implement that type of system, that kind of documented reservoir of knowledge in any other form. So that makes things transportable and reusable and extendable. All the all the wonderful elements. Um, After Daniel, we had a keynote presentation by Jessica Talisman. Her presentation was called Intentional Arrangement, AI and Information Architecture. Um, at first, she painted a clear philosophy, deep thinking around what it means to create an intentional arrangement. And afterwards, she gave us a concrete example of how to traverse the value chain, from a concept to how that concept is used within a system, and then how we um, disambiguate that concept across different contexts. Um, she's a deep thinker. She had a really good presentation, and I recommend that you take a chance to view it over the weekend or whenever you get a chance to. After that, we had a presentation by Prasad Yalamanchi, Ontologies for Enabling Automated Graph and LLM Workflows. I think it's very timely. He's been in this space for quite some time as a hardcore ontologist, and over the last 4 years, he's actually been developing a means for creating a unstructured data parsing platform that is configurable with an ontology. So what I'm trying to say is he's been engineering a way for automatically consuming, constructing, and reasoning with an ontology across unstructured corpuses of text. Um, so if you want to hear from somebody who's been solving problems in the space for more than 4 years before ChatGPT got cool, I recommend you go watch that one. After that, we had a dialogue with Kurt Cagle on AI and ontologies as standards. We spun up this idea that ontologies need to have fair principles clearly in mind. So they need to be findable. They need to be accessible within reasonable dimensions. If you're allowed to view something, you should be able to view it. If you're not allowed to view something, you should not be able to view it. I think that's pretty common sense, but sometimes it's handled with a variety of duct tape solutions kind of jammed together. Um, he talked about interoperability and reusability as characteristics of ontologies. And yeah, we talked about ontologies as standards. I mean, they're a foundational concept to make sense of the world, reason with the world, and have a pragmatic jumping off point for organizations. Organizations don't want to spend all their time just constructing things from scratch. It's a huge waste of money and time if you don't have access to specialized talent. But if we have some standards around ontologies and ontologies that we can get off the shelf, it really helps jumpstart adoption efforts across any number of industries. With the idea that those industries already have some lightweight ontology model that can be adapted to their unique organizational context. And lastly, the presentation right before this was Navigating AI Frontiers. It's all about perspective with Dr. Hala Nelson. Dr. Hala Nelson is a mathematical professor, and she also did her PhD around material science. So, the way that she approaches this um, is she looks at the top down view and the bottom up view of how to solve a problem with the context of this kind of technology. It's not it's not a she has a unified perspective of how to deal with this in the organization. When you approach an organization, it's not just about doing what the head of the organization says needs to be done. It's not about just focusing on the technology or implementation details. It's about negotiating between both parts, because what capabilities are available in an organization inform strategy, and the use case or needs of the strategy are sort of constrained by capabilities. So it's a dialogue between both high and low levels of implementation and strategy. um, I think she paints a clear picture, and she gave us a primer on explainability, how she approaches work. She's done work for government entities, for private institutions, and she's also supported her students in developing their own models and reasoning for projects with other government agencies. So yeah, I guess I don't have any questions, but I hope you guys really enjoyed this presentation. and just the event overall. These people that came to share their knowledge and expertise, they've been doing this for a very long time. They have a variety of perspectives from academia to industry, research, all that stuff. And they really practice what they preach. I wouldn't bring someone to you to influence or educate you as the audience who hasn't paid their dues. I myself, I'm just a observant, a bystander looking to carve out a consulting niche. But we'll get to that in the near term. I hope you have a good rest of your evening, and yeah, reach out via LinkedIn if you need anything else.